occasionally almost knocks out, goes through our living room. So it's a very dangerous situation. We live in peril and hazard anytime it rains. So you can, sense the urgency to get answers. It's frustrating to hear it's in litigation and to be shooed off back to my seat because you don't want to answer anything. But that's a whole nother point. But so the thing here is that they're going to increase that cart path, and this is a perfect time for you to take control and perhaps talk to the owner up there, Mr. Milano, in controlling that water on his property, because there's a catch basin on the bottom of that fairway near the 12th tee box there. If you walk there, there's an empty swale with a basin built there already with a pipe in it that's empty. That water just needs to be notched, a trench notched. Doesn't take very much effort. I don't know what's underneath there or ledge or how, but there's not much more of a pitch that it needs to get down to that basin. It can go into the water system, and the whole system is the whole water problem is resolved for everybody. So this is a good time to be proactive with it. And I just, with all due respect, hope you can have keep us in communication, in the loop on what's going on.
Appreciate your comments.
Thank you very much.
Any other public comment tonight? Then we'll move into old business, and we have Parks and Recreation Route 17 Complex Design Committee report. Hi, Brian.
Good evening.
And we have members of the committee as well as members of Parks and Rec, and our Sean Dwyer, Park and Rec directors here too.
Thank you for having me back. It's been a few months, I think, since I updated you.
I did make copies.
Okay, did we pass those out to the
Sure.
selectmen,
Yep,
if you
I
would?
have plenty.
Some talking points there. Just wanted to bring you up to date on where we are and with the design process. At this point, the preliminary design phase is complete. To recap, as I briefed you earlier,
Extra copies for anyone?
we solicited input from a broad range of stakeholders going back to last summer and other surveys. And our overriding goal was really to create a park for the entire community. When you look at the drawings, obviously the biggest things that stand out are playing fields, but that's we wanted to go beyond that. We incorporated a variety of elements of programming. We've listened to and as best we can try to address concerns of neighbors and abutters. And to this point, we've got enough engineering accomplished to develop a reasonable cost estimate. What we have included in the programming are some unmaintained natural spaces, if you will, in the off to the eastern portion of the property and to the north, where there's wetlands and either kind of some hilly areas and so on. We're not really at this time proposing to do much back there. We're also maintaining some existing open space. We have walking paths, a playground, a splash pad, 2 60-foot diamonds, which could be baseball or softball, 2 full-size soccer fields, which could also be used for football, lacrosse, or other things, a restroom / concession and storage building, and then also kind of a barn-like building, kind of rustic, just to support primarily the day camp. So that would just be kind of a large room with an office and some restrooms and some storage. So at this point, we really need some guidance from the board and the town in terms of where to go from here, both regarding budget and the programming that we've come up with. We think that at this point we'd be ready to present something to the voters for referendum come November to ask them to go forward. We would not carry forward with much more additional engineering design until we got some direction on that, which I'll kind of come back to in a second on the budget. But there are a few outstanding design issues. One is regarding the entrance. There is the consultant has spoken with DOT, and we'll be doing a traffic study, and they're also going to be taking into consideration right now the increased traffic that's on Gospel Lane because of the closure on 17A, and hopefully using the traffic studies that were done for that project to kind of net out some of that existing traffic. There's an issue that town administration is working through as part of the purchase and sale agreement with the prior owner. There's a right of egress during high water events across the property, which we have to provide for. That's a little tricky, given the topography and the wetlands there, but town is trying to work through that. The Strickland Street cul-de-sac is another issue. I think that we've got some contingency in the project budget that we'd be able to take care of construction of that, but the other procedural processes to make that happen would need to go forward. And then the buffer along the southern border, along this side over here, we have a couple of concepts, but we would look to work a lot more closely with the neighbors in terms of what shape that would take in terms of, and a lot of that also depends upon the grading of the site. So some of those areas may be a little bit lower than the adjoining properties. We may not need much there in the way of vegetation. And there's one abutter who has regularly come to our meetings and vehemently expressed his opinion that he wants no buffer. He wants to be able to sit in his yard and see what's going on in the park. So we would need to take that into consideration as well as we design whatever that space would be between the active areas as well as the property there. But so in terms of a schedule, if funding was approved by the town in November, we would complete design this fall and this winter, go to construction in 2015, and more than likely ready for use in 2016. In terms of the fields, that depends upon whether you use seed or sod and so on, and kind of what's ready and when you can actually start construction, but more or less ready in 2016. Our engineers had come up with an opinion of probable construction cost for our baseline plan of around $7 million, which included some contingency in there, and some preliminary discussions with the town was, okay, well, let's see if we can knock that back a little bit. And so what the committee did was look at some of the elements and what we could do to try to reduce that budget. The biggest item that we took out was a synthetic turf soccer field. We had had an option in there for one of those fields to be synthetic turf, which would give you, probably at least a month or two on either side, a little bit more durability there, but that comes with an additional price tag over a natural grass field of about $750,000. So taking that out knocked a bit out from the baseline plan. Cutting some of the trails or walking trails in the back area we took out. We thought those were the types of things that if we wanted to do that could be, community service or Eagle Scout projects. Also, talking with some of the neighbors back here, they were concerned about any kind of extensive trail network back up in this area here, because that's a little bit more secluded, closer to their properties, and there's really plenty of room back over here as well. So took the trails out. One of the original concepts had some pathway lighting around some of the walking paths and so on. Dropped that out. Took out some of the equipments and fixtures. The original cost estimate had things like bleachers and goals and so on, and I think, borrowing, taking some things from other fields and the sports groups having, goals at other fields that would no longer be used could come in. And then one other item was the concept of having some fitness trail equipment up on the knoll here, and taking some of those things out. So, and there could have been a little bit of more, some fencing and some other things, odds and ends that added up, so that, we came up with this adjusted plan, which again has a construction budget of around $5.4 million, including, again, some contingency that really doesn't take out, I guess aside from the basketball court, doesn't take out really any of the essential programming that we put in there. And that was really asked for by a lot of people in the town. And I just want to kind of close with something I read in Sunday's paper on the article about the boys' high school championship win. And this is quoting Jason Staub, who was the winning pitcher, who said that Portland knew a state championship was possible the entire season. And he said, quote, "We always thought we had a chance of winning this thing," he said. "Even when it was tough, I've been playing with these guys all my life, and we knew we had it in us." And as a former president and active volunteer in Portland Little League, that made me very proud, because they were playing together all their lives because of things that I was involved in and many other people were involved in. And that's really what I think, on behalf of the committee, what we're trying to do here is not just athletics, it's not just about winning championships, but it's providing a space for the community to gather, to do a variety of different activities, and really capitalize on the spirit of Portland and the spirit of cooperation that we see in our town. So I'd be happy to take any questions.
Can I just have you comment quickly on 4B? What are you referring to there, for the flooding in the east?
In the purchase and sale agreement from the original property owner, there was a right of egress from this house here, from this property, to go across the road and come back out somewhere undefined during events of high water, such that if it was flooded on this side as well as on the other side. Now, we don't know exactly how he got out previously. He must have done that before in a storm or something. There's been some other development, I think, since that happened originally. So with us trying to find a way out, we're trying to avoid having to do any construction across wetlands, which would be very expensive. So I know First Selectwoman and planner and town council, I think, have been talking with Mr. Goodrich about looking,
This
exploring
was,
options.
as Brian said, this was something that, when Nelson Goodrich sold the property to the town, we agreed that once it becomes developed, we would provide that egress. There is some developable land near his property, which is on the west side. Rick?
East side of 17, the truck. Is that what you're talking
He's on the west side of the
No.
east?
Well, he's talking about like the stuff back here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and then the egress would be on the east side. So that's
Across
always been.
17A?
No,
No.
that's not 17A, that's.
Well, this is 17 here.
It's 17, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
And so the question is, how do you get out, is the main thing. And so,
There's a few options
There's a
we're
few-
looking at.
there's a few options.
2 or 3 different options.
and so we're looking to develop something
And they
that,
involve other people's land, so we need to.
I must be
speak with
missing a
those
point. Does
people.
it ever flood there?
He's an island.
Yes.
In 100-year storm events, he's
Yes.
an island.
Okay.
He can't go north, he can't go south. He has to go across the road.
85 maybe?
Well.
Excuse me?
1985?
84, 80,
May of 84.
80, yeah. Yes. Whatever.
Around that.
But yes, 100-year storm event, he's an island. And what he's done in the past is goes across other people. Without
Goes to higher ground. Essentially. Did you have other questions, Brian?
No, not really. Obviously you guys have been working hard on this, and it'd be nice to see if we could get going on this project, so I think, are you looking for consensus from us, I think, in terms of where to go forward?
Discussion, at least.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for an action item tonight, but I certainly
Sure.
would like to know what your thoughts are. One of the things that the engineers told me is that depending on how the town approaches getting this job done, they would prepare the contract documents, whether for the whole project or for a portion of the project, but they don't want to prepare documents that aren't biddable based on what the budget is.
so we've really, told the engineer, aside from doing the traffic study and doing a few other things that they need to do, they're in a little bit of a holding pattern.
Mhm.
It makes no sense for us to turn them loose to do, final detailed engineering plans and specifications until, really until we would actually have the money in hand, so to speak.
And this kind of falls into some of the discussions, you weren't here at the last meeting, but Fred Nouse had suggested that we talk about some of our policies and where we're going and the kinds of things that we're doing. And whenever you go out for bonds, it's very important to think about what the needs are of the town going forward for the next 20 years. This is one project that we would like to proceed with. And Rick and I have also talked about this project as well as the whole Board of Selectmen in terms of other projects. We know from our discussions at this board level that we have water infrastructure needs, and we also have road infrastructure needs. We've had a number of conversations about chip sealing versus paving, care and upkeep of our roads, which we know there are at least a couple of roads, many roads, but two in particular, that would need some real attention in terms of rebuilding. So as we think about whether we're going to and how we're going to and when we go out to bond, I think the town needs to think about other projects that we also need to do to make sure the town is well managed and maintained going forward.
I would hope that we would be looking at any grants that might be available to offset the price of this.
Absolutely, and I think that, we would, not knowing if you would get, you could either, reduce the budget and roll the dice that you would get grants, or have the budget, and if you get grants, fine, then you don't need to spend it all, and you don't need to, to borrow it all.
Do you have some kind of itemized schedule of
The costs?
Yeah.
Yes, we can provide that to you.
I don't need it right now.
Yeah, we can get that to you. And it has an itemized, it's got a summary list, and then an itemized list, and how we reduce the items that we took out to reduce the budget. So that can certainly be made available to all of you, so you can kind of see where things are.
Possibly
Is this-
maybe, I'm sorry, Mark.
No, it's fine.
Possibly like, instead of doing it on 1 year, at least do one project, maybe have everything on a 5-year plan or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's, you guys would have to figure that out, of whether you can budget that in part of an annual appropriation, or whether you'd have to bite something off in a chunk.
Right.
I would say that there's an initial outlay, if you're gonna do any of the work, just to do all the basic site work, do the grading, put the roads in, put in the septic system, utilities, everything else. I mean, you're in for $2 million just to do all that work. That's just off the top of my head. You'd be able to pick it out of the numbers. So, it's about 2.5, thanks, Mike. Just to do that before you, put down any grass seed or anything else. So that's kind of the magnitude that you're talking about, just to kind of get the basic infrastructure done.
My sense is it's gonna be more expensive if you do this piecemeal, so I think if you're gonna do it, you just bond, and you're gonna have to figure out what the appetite is from the townspeople and see what they wanna do, but to me, it seems like if you're going to do it and there's interest in doing it, that you should bite it all off at once.
I agree, because it's probably gonna cost you more in the long run if you phase it out. But there has been an awful lot of interest from the townspeople. Yeah.
Are we still
The
on,
meeting we had at the high school there, that was a great turnout.
Yes.
are we still on schedule to have this be on the ballot this November? I think that with a project like this, that's so important, that it should be on a ballot where the most people in the town vote, and I'd like the entire town to be able to have a say in this. So I really would like to press that it be on the ballot this November. I think it's a good idea, and I think it will be supported by the town, but I want the town to have that voice.
And I think you would be looking at, I think, probably the end of August, beginning of September, in terms of your 60-day requirement to get something on the ballot for Election Day.
The board has to make that decision pretty quickly
Hey,
because of the timing.
Rick, you were working on up there too, right? I just thought, that seems to be a lot of money to me. Where does that $5 million come into? That's why I like to see an itemized thing. Is it grading? Is it in, what's the?
Well, as I said, there's the grading.
It's not that hilly.
It is, it's deceptively hilly. When you drive by the road, you're about 8 feet at least above this lower part right here. If you go down and stand there and walk back, there's almost 20 feet of relief
Yeah.
from the front to the back. And then we'd also be doing a little bit of digging into some of these side slopes here, balancing the cuts and fills. So some of this would be kind of broadly terraced.
It'd be a cut and fill.
Right, and then we're also managing, in terms of some of the soil, any of the soil that has any residual pesticide, would be essentially burying that, so that wouldn't be at the surface. We'd be putting in a well for irrigation, so we wouldn't be using the town water for watering the fields. There is no sewer there, so we need a septic system. So as I said, we'd be happy, we'll get you the itemized list so you can review that, and then if you have any follow-up questions for us, you can look at that.
Is your pricing on current value of money or future value?
I believe it's current, so it's of a magnitude that it's, at this point, doesn't make sense to really escalate it that much, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any timeline that the selectmen would like in terms of moving forward?
No, I think he's right, that if we're gonna put this on the November ballot, that we've gotta start taking a look at it, but I agree with Carl, we've gotta see some number, we need more information.
Yeah, and I think, we had approached First Selectwoman's office as the committee was gauging and what the appetite is, okay, well, what would this mean to the average taxpayer? And the board needs to ask the finance director for specific
Yes, I want
issues
the
like
board to
that,
ask
or a
them.
feasibility study for how would you fund this, balance it with the rest of the debt service that the town has, so that you could come up with, okay, if you bonded $5 million, what would that mean in terms
Right.
of,
And-
something
and I
else? So
had
that's
said
something
to
that we
the-
can't come up with.
Right, and I had said to the committee that I need that direction from the board, since bonding is a board-authorized measure, it's not for selectmen.
I wanna reiterate that I hope that some of the cost of this can be offset from grants, that we don't have to bond the entire portion.
And that's why I was asking about the, if we set the whole project and look at it and not do it all in one shot. Hopefully, by next year, 2 years down the line, some more money comes available through grants or whatever, Mark.
You may be right, but let's look at the project.
Look at the whole
and
project as
see.
a whole.
Well, I think you need to schedule, my suggestion would be that we schedule a time when we just sit and talk about this one topic, and not other items on the agenda. Because you need to talk about bonding, you're gonna do it this November, what kinds of steps need to be taken by the town to get ready
Well,
for that.
somebody's gotta do some research before we can really talk about it. Somebody, employees.
Yes, but you also, you're telling me tonight that you want that to be done.
Yes.
Okay. Are you considering any other items that you would put into a bond issue?
We've got a lot of things we have to consider, that you've already highlighted some of them.
It's a big question, obviously.
Yeah.
It's a big question. And depending on the amount that you go out for
And we have to look at our
authorization-
overall indebtedness. I mean, this is not just something we can do without some
Right,
work.
right. And I do want to tell you that it, as you know, it takes time to do this. It's a very short window when you talk about July and August.
Yeah.
So you have to be, and I.
This may not get on the November ballot because there's a lot of work to be done.
Uh-huh.
You can try.
Yeah.
I'd like to
okay.
try.
That should be our
yeah.
goal.
I just, because if we do it any other time, then the turnout's gonna be, less than half of, how many people are gonna show up. And then you're gonna have a lot of people who are gonna complain that their voice wasn't heard. And I just feel like that for something this scale, we need to have it, on an important election.
I think what you're saying is either a state or a national
Yeah,
election.
exactly.
Where you get big turnout, you get a lot of people coming. You do a
Yeah.
special referendum, you have to get 20%, it's very difficult. I want more people to be able to study this and vote on it, and that's why we would try to do the November, when there's a gubernatorial and or presidential. But there's a number of steps, as you know, you've been through this before, some of you, in terms of this town, you've been through it in other jobs and things, so we will do our best to put together the flow chart things and ask the committee what some of the information is that you have already that we can utilize in terms of, maybe set something up with Weston and Sampson and tell us what their estimates are here. as well as other projects that I think need to be discussed in terms of bonding.
And overall indebtedness is a percentage of our total budget.
Correct,
and
that's all part of it.
We all have to, I mean,
That's
there's a
correct.
lot to look at.
Yep, and the interest rates that we know would be potentially there this year, and so forth. So we'll put something together.
Is there any good sand out there?
Well, I think what we're doing right now is, we pretty much are balancing the cuts and the fills out here now, so there's not a lot of net import, no net import or export with the plan here, which is really what you want to do, is not have to bring anything in or take anything out, so.
I have one thought. Aside from the steep grant, for example, have you investigated what opportunities there are for grants? Do you have some kind of, is there some type of list that's generated or?
The committee has not done that yet. I'm aware that there are a number of other, potential opportunities there. I think that, in many cases, for those types of things, you have to make something real for them to look at you, so that if you said, hey, we're building this park, can we get a grant for a piece of it? Can we get a grant for the building? Can we get a grant for the playground? If we make some part of this handicapped accessible, is that something that what are the sweet spots that people are looking for to be able to give you money, outside of the steep grants? And how would that go? But I think if you were, looking at, reserving some portion of the work for future hopeful grants or some future budget appropriation, it would be wise in the initial phase of construction to do all the grading, put in utility stubs, all that kind of work, so that you wouldn't have to come back and do that work again.
We can schedule a special meeting for the 9th of July. I don't know what the selectmen's schedules are and the committee's members' schedules.
No, really.
But the regularly scheduled,
Well,
I
let's see what
think is the
information you can get together for us first. Because why schedule a meeting if you don't know what you're gonna have for us?
You guys looked into, putting also.
Well, the 9th is still a ways away, though. I mean, it's
I'm sorry.
only what, the 18th today?
Okay,
Yeah, I'll
that's
just
fine.
let them finish.
So there's a lot of work to this,
There
I'm
is a
telling you.
lot. That's why I'm
I'm
saying.
warning you that there's a lot of work to
I
this.
What about the,
And the window is very short. Anything is doable.
yeah,
We're not taking public comment right now, Bill. Okay.
so could we set a tentative meeting then? I mean, I'd like to, because when do we meet again? Because we don't meet till after the 4th.
Right.
As is.
So the
So the
second
next
meeting-
meeting's gonna be the 23rd of July.
Right.
And that's kind of shooting ourselves in the foot if we are serious.
But it probably takes that amount of time to begin to put some of these numbers together.
Yeah.
I mean, I would
What
have
about-
the cost estimate, the park cost estimate you will have tomorrow, but certainly the other things that you need
Right,
to
the
deal with
steps.
everything
What about
else
the
that you have.
16th? Like the week before, if we just, I don't know, because if we go and we have a meeting on the 23rd, we're gonna have a lot of other business, I'm assuming, being the only meeting in the month. I don't know how much time we wanna devote to this one issue.
And I can certainly apprise you as to how we're doing on the 9th. How about that?
That'd be
And then-
good.
And then we can always schedule the meeting tentatively for the 16th. Kathy? Another,
Towns.
another issue? Yeah, another meeting you have that night? Okay. Then we will not be meeting on the 9th. That'll be the, and we're not, let me just ask, we're not scheduled for the 2nd, is that right? Is that what you said?
I think we're not, it's typically, aren't we?
It's a holiday.
I think we
I
voted.
thought we were too, I thought I had it written down.
I have it down. but-
Oh, we do have it down?
I think we
Then maybe that's good, all right?
Let's go with that.
Getting ahead of myself for the holiday.
There was just, what Carl just asked one other question when he was talking about a pool. Early on in the planning process, we had looked at a pool. Certainly some people in town had expressed the desire to have a pool,
Do you?
but we just ruled it out from a cost,
Prohibitive.
prohibitive.
Cost?
What is, if we're at 5 to 7 million, and you're talking about just throwing, doing grading and field, that's a lot of money. I mean, you think-
Well, the grading is, there's other equipment as well, but the swimming pool would have been on the order of, not just on the capital cost, but on the O&M cost and the staffing costs and the amount of usage that we get out of it. We kind of ruled that out early on in the process. So we never really developed full costs for that, but that was something that we looked at very early on. So the splash pad as a water feature for particularly suitable for young children is kind of what we came up with there for that.
What I'll do is keep the item on the agenda so that if I have information to share with you, we will. But a specific date, as Mark pointed out, I can't give you for when we'll have all the answers. So we will be able to give you a better indication at the next meeting. But I think you see spirit of what the selectmen would like to do in terms of the project. I can't promise when. Fair enough?
All we can do and ask, hopefully the committee has done its job
I
in
think the
terms
committee's
of
done a fabulous job.
looking at what the town was interested in, coming up with a viable plan
Yes.
and a budget for that. Certainly, if you came back and told us, Brian, we can only give you X amount this year, what can you do for us? We'd be happy to come back with the, with the plan for that and what the different options would be. We want to try to, the different constituencies that were lobbying for different elements of the park here, we'd like to try to please all of them if we could. So that's one of the benefits of trying to do everything at once. So thank you for your time.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, and thank you, other members, for coming tonight. Appreciate it.
I'll get the board
Any other-
tomorrow. I'll get the board tomorrow if everyone wants to take a look.
Okay, that'd be good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mike or Steve, do you have anything you wanted to add, or from the committees?
Brian, thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming, and thanks for serving on the committees. The easement agreement between the town and Connecticut Natural Gas, service location 13 Waverly Avenue, which is abutting town property at 20 Freestone Avenue, is next. And Rick came tonight because there were some questions at the last meeting. I did not have the maps and a good explanation, so thanks, Rick.
And I apologize, I couldn't come to the last meeting. And I think, Carl, you had the majority of the questions. Kind of goes like this, and what I've done is I only made Carl a copy.
Okay. I have other copies too.
But here's the deal, Carl. Typically on a gas line easement, on those types of utilities that aren't straight line utilities, typically what is done, this is a standard CNG agreement. Typically what they do is they center the easement on the pipe. The pipe isn't installed yet, Carl, so, and Susan didn't have all the paperwork. So what basically you have, Carl, is I beefed this up a little bit. I changed some wording. I better identified the property location and the general location under the first section of where this easement is gonna be. And then there's a sketch in there, which was in the previous package, that kind of shows the general area. The general area is along the north side. It's matter of fact, it's right there. It's gonna go, the gas line comes all the way from Main Street across the town's property via a similar easement. And it gets to here, and the church needs to get it to there. So it's the same type of easement, and maybe I can help you a little bit.
So it comes down here.
Nope, it's like this, Carl. See right here, approximate location of gas service to, see, here's where
I
you
know
park.
where you are.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's a general area. They haven't put the pipe in. They may put the pipe in here or there, depending on the separation distances from the meter and what they.
So what I'm asking real quick,
Go ahead.
and then
Go ahead.
we're sitting right here.
Yep,
Okay.
yes, you are.
That's where we're sitting.
Yep.
Where's the gas line now?
Gas line comes across here, Carl.
Yeah.
Comes along the green.
Yeah.
Goes, they mold underneath. It comes right up along here,
Yeah.
and the meter is right there.
Okay, so what you want to do is,
They're gonna
this part-
tap this existing service,
Right.
probably somewhere right here.
Okay,
And they're gonna just simply go from there to there.
yeah.
It's pretty well
I don't care what
identified
they do
now.
up there.
And it generally, the easement, they come across the town property in the same manner. And this is a standard type of easement where it's centered along the pipe.
Would that affect anything, like I was asked before, it was on the driveway, this shouldn't affect for any kind of.
Nope.
putting
What they'll
any kind of
probably do, they'll
structure-
probably mold underneath this pavement.
Yeah,
If they
sure they
don't,
will.
If they don't, they're gonna have to patch it to my satisfaction. It's a 20-foot strip there. It's not much, Carl. It's the only real feasible way that the church can get natural gas and trying to be neighborly, more or less. And it doesn't compromise the gas pressures or anything to this building. I've checked that. It's kind of a simple one. I mean, I can get you can hire a land surveyor after the pipe, and we can have it
That's the
surveyed
point,
and have a
right.
bigger map, but I think that's kind of standard procedure.
That's not the point.
Okay.
Right now, you
Sure.
don't
Let's
have
do
it
again.
identified in
Let's
here.
do it
do you?
again. No, nor would I,
No.
nor would I want to, Carl, nor could I really do it very well, Carl. The gas line, for example, comes by the arch, comes across the grass, and the deal.
Right here, just point it out, right here. There
Okay,
you go.
Carl,
There's
here it
the
is.
part. I
I'm gonna
see
draw it for you. I'm gonna
Thank you.
put it right in
Put your
pencil.
pencil.
Here it is. Okay.
Delineate.
Here it is, right here. It's
Yeah.
coming like this. It
Yeah.
comes along the grass. It comes over to here. It goes underneath the pavement.
Right,
It comes right across here.
Yep.
And it goes right to a meter that's right there.
yep,
And they're gonna hit it probably right there.
okay. So I asked.
Yep, no problem,
Pretty
Carl, I'm
simple.
sorry. I
Thank you,
didn't mean to
Carl.
confuse you.
Huh?
Thank you, Carl.
Excuse me?
Thank you
Thank you for what?
for reviewing the information. Did you
I wasn't
have-
trying to pull a quick one on you, Carl.
It's not a quick one. It's just the idea that, we have an easement going across a public piece of property, and I had no map. I didn't see where it is. I don't know where, and then when I get the map, it's not delineated on the map, excuse me, that I asked for, so I'm not seeing where the pipelines are. I mean.
Fair questions.
It's more than a fair question. It's an important question. And this is on the side yard of the property from here to our border. So we're gonna pick it up here, go across. All I'm asking is that this piece of property here between this wall and our neighbor, if that easement would affect any future building or any future whatever for ourselves. That's pretty simple.
Good question. Does it?
No,
No.
no.
But you didn't know because you didn't have it.
Well, Rick had it.
So are you
I didn't see
okay
it.
now, Carl?
Yeah, I'm fine with
Okay, then I move adoption of the resolution.
it,
Waive the reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Carl's gonna say.
No, I don't think so.
No,
Brian?
Brian.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. By the way, I'll just, did any of you want maps, smaller maps of what was discussed a few minutes ago? I do have them.
You got one at
I'd
the
like
last
that one
meeting.
also.
Yeah.
These changed slightly from the last ones you got.
From last week?
They met on Thursday, and they made these up since Thursday.
Oh, then I would like.
Very, very minor changes
We'll
that may be of some help to you.
What, do you know what they changed?
They moved the baseball field a little further north and made this
Now-
area in the middle.
We had
bigger.
talked about making that area, it doesn't look like they made it very much bigger.
They made it larger, but I don't think
Because
it's huge.
remember at the meeting that we went to, what was it, Tuesday, last week?
Yes.
We discussed possibly moving the
Yes.
fields back and creating more of a town, like a center
Yeah.
of the park. That's kind of seems to be scrapped, I take it.
I think this is their final,
Okay.
but I don't know how many feet that is. We'd have to ask them that.
Can I ask a silly question at the end of
Well, we're off the topic. It's technically not,
this? It's a silly question.
but if the others would allow it.
I'll allow it. just
I
this
won't
once.
allow it.
Okay, Mark says we need to move on.
Thanks, Mark. He's all
That's a
kidding.
good
you know.
question.
Go ahead.
I'm just looking at these two baseball fields. Is this typically how they're set up, or do they, would they be outfield to outfield?
I think those are questions more,
Yeah, all right, but it
Maybe.
just, yeah, that seems.
I've always seen outfield out.
Outfield to outfield, right? Okay, well, that was my question. We can ask somebody else about it later.
it has something to do with the sun, too.
Well, that's another issue, I know, I'm sure. So I don't know that they would be that, should be that close together, but that's a different issue, I guess.
that's something we could definitely talk to the committee about.
That's a good question,
I don't know, pitchers are gonna get hit by home runs.
That's a.
The next
Well,
item
Flair was
is
brought
a
up.
continuation of possible topics for policy discussion that Fred had started us on. I did get for your review, and it's not for tonight, but for another night. These are the purchasing rules and regulations, along with some pertinent information on purchasing from the charter. The last time these were revised by the selectmen is 2004. So I thought it was time to take another look at these and at least review what we have on record, and maybe another time to look at this, because I think this is important to look at. And the other item that I really would like to continue the discussion has to do with
Sorry.
water infrastructure, as well as the roads, and the need for improvements to our roads. And as I said a few minutes ago, should the selectmen and finance financially decide that they want to go out for bonded indebtedness, then I think you need to look at the needs of the town over the next 20 years. And
That's
how
what
many
I was
nights do
saying.
we meet here? How many nights have we talked about for the last 10 years? What we need to do to improve our roads and what we need to do to improve our water infrastructure. Now, those are major, major items, I recognize that. But I think you need to balance the park, water, and roads, and there's probably other matters as well. But I think, would you agree for public works?
for you, actually, if you.
Sure,
want to
Rick.
entertain a
Yep.
little bit.
Sure.
I was gonna go under public comment, but you-
Well, I think this is the top,
Get
this
me
is
under here easy. Well, I
this
hope
is
it's
the
pertinent.
possible topics for,
Yeah.
Can I ask, what are the two roads you were referring to really?
Was-
Rick,
There's not really two roads, but let me share a little bit with you,
Well, I
because I
know
spoke with
one
Susan
is-
a little bit. And there's no particular roads, but I mean,
but there
couple,
are some that are in worse shape than others.
couple
is
months
what I
ago,
should
we're
say.
here, and chip sealing is coming up in a month, and I'm gonna be given the list of roads, and you probably will have some concerns proposed, and I know at budget time only a short while ago, we were agonizing over $50 here and $50 in a line item, and we had a good discussion on not wanting to chip seal anymore, and what can we do, and Mark actually asked me to look, and Susan said we'd have to bond for some road improvements if we were gonna change the way we take care
Well,
of
that's
our.
what most towns do.
So what I did is I looked at, and I had mentioned to you a long time ago, I did Old Marlboro Turnpike, just as an example. And Old Marlboro Turnpike is a good road, it's a collector road, it's in very poor condition, has a 110-year water main under it. So I pulled through my numbers and I said, okay, what would it cost, if you're gonna bond $7.4 million, the cost of bonding up to 10, I talked to Tom a little bit, and you guys are way ahead of me on it, there's a fairly significant amount of work and money to bond. Up between 0 and $10 million, it's X. Once you get over 10, it becomes a whole nother can of worms from what Tom tells me. So let's say you were gonna bond $5.4 million for the park. If you wanted to do Old Marlboro Turnpike, it's another $2.5 million. Brownstone Avenue is a hot topic. It's an area you folks are talking about all the time. You want to improve it. I got all kinds of problems down there. Sinkholes develop, trucks go into them. We got water main breaks all the time. You got park down there. You're looking at acquiring land. I looked at Brownstone Avenue. If you wanted to say, bring that up to a standard, another $1.5 million. So right there on just two roads, you got $4 million. The other night I sat here when the Planning and Zoning Commission chairman was here, and he was very strongly recommended, and it's always been a topic of discussion, extend water and sewer out to 17. Whether I agree or don't, that's another $5 million. Then you look at your water and sewer deficits, probably $1 million in the hole now, going further. I mean, I think, my personal opinion as both the Public Works Director and as a resident in town, I think, and I support park, I've told you I do, but I think there's a number of very important needs, including the park, that you have before you. And if you're gonna go to bond, and you're really serious about the things that we discuss all the time and the concerns that you have, then maybe you bond for not only the park, but some of these infrastructure improvements that are coming right at you. So that's food for thought. That's my 2 cents for what it's worth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick, I got a question for you. Have you ever heard of, just trying to look it up, was talking with first selectman I met, I forget the town, and he said that they saved a bundle by using rubberized chip seal. Have you heard of this?
Oh, there's all kinds of chip seals, there's latex, they put all kinds of.
Yeah, I don't know. He said he liked it.
More expensive,
Okay.
more expensive.
Yeah.
I've really-
Check mine.
Okay. He said it was great. I was like, I'm gonna have
It's
to.
good.
Yeah.
Chip seal is chip seal, whether it's
True.
rubber or
True.
stone.
I thought that might be easier on the cars. You know the.
It wears, what happens with that, Ryan, is it comes up easier, it comes up quicker than stone,
Yeah.
it doesn't last as long.
Okay.
So you need to do it more often.
Okay.
It's a little softer, subtler, in
Yeah.
the end, it doesn't amount to anything.
Excuse me, other comments?
I just,
Fred?
A couple of things. I know, last time when we were talking about, this particular issue, there wasn't a whole lot of appetite by members to charge into any of these areas. And I just wanted to say that my intent with some of this was more, looking at the various topics and having a discussion. Well, right now, it looks like our agenda, we're actually gonna be doing this very thing with park. It falls certainly into that category. My intent was really to have a discussion during the meeting. Some nights we have meetings where the agenda isn't too heavy. We take a look at something and discuss it. Maybe it goes nowhere. And then again, we talk about economic development. Most people say, yeah, we gotta do something about economic development, but what's done? And it's like kicking the water. The water's another one. I'm glad that's gonna come up because we've been kicking that can down the road for a long time. And we do have to do something about it. So I'm glad that's on here. But one item that I think has popped up that again, we should take a look at, is a plan of conservation and development. We've had 2 or 3 people come in. Deanna had it in her budget. A couple of people have made comments about it. And the very fact that if we don't do it, we are limited or we are not able to get the steep grants, which we depend on, is reason enough that we have to sit down and decide how much we want to spend and let's plan for that. I was just looking at it, like the one that was done in 206, and what they have here. It's kind of interesting because some of the things have been done, and it also points out the Board of Selectmen, there are different objectives that we have. You're not gonna solve every problem or coach every situation, but the board is supposed to be active in a whole lot of different areas. And things like having the chairman of P and Z come in, I think is a good idea, and I think maybe if time allows, once in a while, having other chairs come in and have a dialogue with the board would be good. But I would urge that we look at that plan, put that plan of conservation development for a topic at some point.
Very good. Anyone else? Okay. Just finish writing here. Okay. Ready to move on? The next item is appointments to boards and commissions. We had one for the Housing Authority, Dawn Wadding.
As a member of the,
Yes.
full-time member?
Yes.
Dawn Wadding?
Dawn had been a member as a resident,
Okay, right.
and she resigned from that because she now lives in another part of town. She's no longer living at the Housing Authority, but she's interested in continuing to serve on the Housing Authority. And there is a vacancy, so I'd like to nominate Dawn Wadding. Is there a second?
Second.
Brian? Or did you want to make that nomination?
No, it's fine.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. New business, network access service agreement. David, did you want to address us on that briefly? This is in your packets. Thank you, Rick. Have a good night.
Basically, what Susan's describing is kind of the culmination of the project that we've been working on with Board of Ed on the connection to the CEN network, which is or the Nutmeg network, which is the Connecticut Education Network. And basically, what that agreement is, we have our fiber in place. We have the connections. We're finalizing those connections between the high school, Valley View, Town Hall, and the Brownstone School. The outlying school, which is basically Gildersleeve, there's no way for us to get to that school via underground conduit that we own. So basically what Susan is working on, an agreement for the Connecticut, or the Nutmeg Network, for us to utilize what they call a municipal gain space on the telephone poles, which is basically the space between the power lines and the telephone. There's a 12-inch span that we can utilize to hang and string fiber to get from the high school down to Gildersleeve. So basically what that does is it is a standard agreement that is with Connecticut Network and the AT&T and the power company. For us to utilize the poles, they have to go through an inspection process of all the poles. We basically looked at two potential routes going down High Street all the way to Bartlett Street, and then up Bartlett Street down to Main Street, and then down to Gildersleeve School. We are also going to be continuing on to the company number 2 firehouse. There's 7 more poles to get us down to there, and that will be on the network. The other potential route was down High Street to William Street and down to Main Street and then up Main Street. But we're kind of leaning towards the Bartlett Street route. There's less traffic on Main Street. We wouldn't have to hire police to string that. So that's
Our
kind
town
of,
crew has done a tremendous job in getting this done.
yes.
They put the conduit in the ground, and we're in pretty good shape. What I'm asking for tonight is authorization for me to sign the 2014 grant to connect to the Nutmeg Network on behalf of the town. And we received a $6,000 grant to help defray the cost. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Brian, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ryan.
Yeah, discussion.
Discussion.
Where are we gonna use the, is this part of, when we abandoned the water lines? We can't use that for pipe replacement?
We did utilize the water lines going up High Street,
Yeah.
yes. But going to Gildersleeve, we can't.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all, so that's all full now?
What's that?
The conduit is full?
We don't have a conduit between here and here.
Okay.
I'm not understanding the
Yeah,
question.
I'm not either. So, the pipe, this is going between the high school
Correct,
Gildersleeve.
and Gildersleeve?
correct.
And that's where the water line ended. Remember, we
Yeah.
installed a new water line from
Right.
the high school down to Route 66. And from the high school going north, we did not replace that.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, no,
So they have to
we
go
did
up.
utilize the
So
water
the
main.
top part. This is
Yeah.
The other side of the hill.
Right, we did utilize the water
Right.
main on this side of the hill coming down to
Well,
Foley Road. That saved us a tremendous amount of
Yeah,
excavation.
it's a good idea.
It was huge, yes.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thanks again,
Thank
Dave.
you, Dave. You're welcome.
The next item is a resolution I'm going to pass out to you. And every year, there is a small amount of money that comes through Homeland Security grant that is administered by CROG for us. And in order for us to utilize the group and have our portion allocated to them, I have to ask that you allow me to sign and deliver all of the appropriate documents necessary for this
This is
grant.
the
It's
same
not a
thing we
large
do
amount.
every year.
Yes. Yes, and they ask that you revisit it every year.
I move that we authorize the resolution as
Second.
distributed.
Seconded by Carl.
Yeah.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Mark and Carl. Unanimous. And I believe the next item would be refund of excess payments. Mark?
Move that Vault Trust, also known as Ally Bank, Louisville, PPC, be refunded the sums of $74.66, $157.19, and $66.28.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. I do not have any update on water and sewer subcommittee update, other than what we talked about already. And we need to begin to do more work on that. In terms of public comment, is there any public comment tonight? We had some earlier. General and formal discussion?
I have a couple of quick things.
Yes.
Madam Secretary and
Yes.
First Select Person, do we have the minutes reflect our congratulations to the baseball?
Thank you.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I take that one step further? I think there was another high school team that the Board of Education elected not to provide championship rings or jackets or something. I don't remember what it was, but I think that's lousy. And I think if they're not going to do it, that we should step up and provide at least a championship ring for these kids. So maybe you could talk to, is Sally still here?
Yeah.
She is, yes.
So maybe you could
I-
talk to her to see what her plan is.
Okay. I actually asked the athletic director,
Okay.
Mr. Borg, and I'll continue the conversation with him. One thing that we also discussed is, at the high school, we do have, as a general rule, not just for the individual students, I think what you're referring to is the individual accomplishments that the members of the team have made. But we also have quite a few teams that have achieved championship status over the last dozen years or so. Many schools build a nice, tasteful sign that says 2014 baseball Class S champs, or soccer girls Class S champs, 2014.
Well, don't they have, I
Yeah, for
forgot,
individual students in the auditorium, right?
well, no,
They
they
have
have
banners in the
banners,
gym.
banners
Yep.
in the gym.
Yep.
And that used to be paid for by the Sideliners Club.
Okay.
And that's an appropriate place for that to come from, I
Mhm.
think.
Let me talk to Rick Borg and
Yeah.
see what he needs. But is there an agreement that the selectmen would like to fund some?
Well, let's not jump into it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if they're gonna do it first.
Yeah.
Okay, I will.
But
I
if they're not,
definitely
that,
will.
Yeah.
I don't want it to go ignored.
I agree.
They'll remember this for the rest of their lives.
True.
And we should acknowledge it, and it's royal and pride.
That's right. They did a fantastic job.
The other item when you're done, Sue, I have
Yes.
two quick things. One is, could we have a meeting, I think Brian wants to know this. The tree committee hasn't met in a while.
Okay.
When Ryan's available, Brian, we could maybe have a 7:00 meeting later on. A couple of things came up at the state level we gotta be
Great.
aware of.
Sure.
And the last thing, I got a call about signs. Now, and if you go down by Adelaide Park and Brownstone, there are no parking signs at just about every telephone pole. And the persons, we kind of discourage people from putting signs up. I don't know who put them up, whether it was Public Works or Rick isn't. But anyway, if you take a look at it, I think sometimes we go way overboard with these signs. And certainly, I don't think they should be on the phone. Myself, when I looked at them, I got to be honest, yeah, I agree, they shouldn't be on the telephone poles. They should be, put a sign up and put them up somewhere else. We tell people, don't put your tag sale signs on the phone,
There is a challenge there, Fred, because there is no dirt. you would have to drill through the sidewalk.
Well, the point being, so if you look along, we do this, I think, too much. I think we put too many parking signs up. I agree that, no parking, fine, we have a no parking area, but why do you need a sign every 10 feet? If you look by the church, it was by St. Mary's Church.
Yep.
It's down along Brownstone Park, along the fence. I don't think we need.
Because us Catholics don't listen to the rules, that's why.
Speak for yourself.
That's what it is, okay. But anyway, I don't think they should be on telephone poles. If we tell the public not to put signs on the telephone poles, we should be doing it.
My guess is there's some regulation that says they have to be so many feet.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it.
Are you
Thank
talking
you.
about along the field
Middlesex
there?
Avenue?
Along the field? Why is there
Sidewalk.
why is there no parking there?
Sidewalk. Because the road is too narrow, and when people park there, it's not, you can't have 2 lanes of traffic.
Been parking
And we
there
have
for
parking.
60 years.
That's what I mean, yeah.
But now you have the quarry.
We have
buses
parking
going
lot
down.
right at the end that you built, and we have the Brownstone Intermediate School. And the neighbors, frankly, were concerned for emergency in and out, that the cars park everywhere, and it's
Let's
been
have some more
taken care of,
rules.
actually. They're doing a nice job. I haven't had any complaints this year, and Park and Rec Director has actually worked with the coaches, and they've done a nice job with the football team and the other teams there. in terms of
I
parking.
had one issue too.
Yes.
I had mentioned once before the unfortunate condition of a new business location in town on Route 66. The auto, is it auto parts or?
Auto parts, everything, yeah.
Yeah. It's a mess out there. It's disgusting. And
That's when they moved from the, next to the cemetery, they moved his business
Exactly.
up by, my house.
how do we allow a
He is
certificate of
under order.
occupancy?
He is under orders, and also was under some orders from the state of Connecticut, because it's state
Maybe,
issues too.
could we get a progress report on that?
Absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you,
It looks terrible.
yes.
You want a motion to go into executive session?
As soon as I finish upcoming meeting. Okay. I'm asking that we not talk about land acquisition. I don't have anything new to report. So I think that we'll cancel that and move, motion, Mark, for the collective bargaining agreement on police. That will be the purpose.
And
And
we
we
go
will,
into executive session for discussion of the collective bargaining agreement with the police department.
and seconded by Kath. And we will have Joe McQuaid, our labor attorney, there with us. And it is 8:55.
Do we figure out the meetings for July?
No, I didn't.
I had a calzone last night, I wasn't
Because I think it
thinking.
only does say July.
I don't
Yeah,
think the
I haven't- I
second is
think-
on there.